Hey, hello. My name is David A. Walker Sr., and the meeting I held was on Wednesday, August 11th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. The meeting was approximately 2.5 hours long, with the first 30 minutes of the meeting being set aside or designated as a time for light snacks and for milling around. The meeting was held at the Jewish Community Center in Youngstown, Ohio. The center is located at 505 Gypsy Lane. We were able to use the facility's library. Actually, it was a Holocaust library, which was really nice to use. And the chairs were arranged in a circle. Of the nine invitees, five of them attended, and there was no co-leader. It was just myself. The nature of the meeting was to have an open discussion with men on the topic of fathers and fatherhood, looking at the past, the present, and the future, having them reflect on their dad as the past, looking at themselves and what they're currently doing as the present, and then looking at what they may want to become as fathers as the future. The group was originally was organized specifically, I should say, for the purpose of this assignment. Neither the group meeting or the content of the group diverted away from the intended proposal. When I look at the group dynamics and the content and the process, I felt that the meeting flowed very well. It progressed from the 5:30 to 6 o'clock time of meeting to 6 to 6:40 of the beginning stages, and then also from 6:40 to 7:30 approximately for the working stage, and then we finished up at approximately 7:40, 7:45, and we were able to close the meeting on time. In the beginning stage, we went over the purpose of the meeting, and I was also able to use this time to reassure members of that they don't have to speak right away. They can take their time in disclosing things. And I also told them that, in talking about a subject of this nature, fathers and fatherhood, they should be prepared to deal with some strong emotions that maybe they didn't think they still had within themselves. Confidentiality was covered in a brief 2 or 3 sentences as to keep the mood high and not to make it a heavy thing. We covered confidentiality quickly in 2 or 3 sentences, and we got a verbal agreement from everyone in the group that agreed to keep what was said in the group and the group. I established my role, with the members of the group, and told them that I was going to be a facilitator, but I was also going to participate at various times throughout the group. The first exercise we did was a designated round in the beginning stage. I did this to warm the group up. I asked the members to rate their level of comfortability on a scale of 1 to 10 and being in a group and talking about a specific topic like fathers and fatherhood, with 10, of course, being the most comfortable and 1 being the least comfortable. In addition to that, I asked the members if had they ever participated in any type of a group that was specifically designed to talk about a subject, a designated subject. It was interesting to find out that none of them have ever really participated in a group of this nature, and that the highest was a 9 in comfortability, and the lowest was a 5. Um, After this quick warm up, we did another quick session where I asked the members what their favorite NFL football team was, as a way to segue into talking about their fathers. On the back side of that question, I asked them to explain what their favorite football team was, and two, what their father's favorite football team was. It was very interesting to hear the stories about them talking about their fathers and how they started to like particular teams. I thought it was a very nice transition in talking about the fathers. To close out the beginning section, we used a index card and a popcorn fashion where I had one volunteer step up, and then that volunteer was able to give the card to whomever they chose next, and on and on and on. And on the card, I asked them to explain how they were feeling today as a weather forecast. And I also asked them to explain how they would describe their fathers as weather forecasts and how they would describe themselves as a weather forecast. This proved to be very introspective. It kind of caught me off guard, and it was also very reflective. It kind of caught me off guard because of some of the strong emotions that came out when the men were talking about their fathers as a weather forecast. This was early on, so at this point, sometimes the members were still kind of straying away from the topic, so I had to bring them back and clarify and say, "You guys are doing a great job, but make sure you use weather forecast terms." When we got to the working stage, we used we used a move exercise to move the group around. So I had the members pull a card from a deck, and based on the card they drew, they had them relocate their seats. At that point, we did a 3 to 5 minute written exercise, and I had them hold on to those papers until the end, and it was called a describe card. And so I had the members describe their fathers in 2 or 3 words, themselves as fathers in 2 or 3 words, and then also describe what they felt a good father was like in 2 or 3 words. Also, to progress to working stage, I did a rapid response for a verbal rating of themselves. Currently, that day, as a father, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best and 1 being the least, and that went very smoothly. Even some of the members chose to expound a little bit more and talk about how their rating differs based on their children, which I thought was very interesting, and it caused me to open up and share as well. I have 5 children, so I was able then to also put a rating scale with each of my 5 children. But it actually moved very smoothly, even though some members, even myself, chose to expound a little bit. After we did that, I engaged in a mini discussion and lecture to set up a time where I wanted them to have a free discussion. So I took about 5 minutes and talked to the members of the group, and then I kind of sat back and let them have the discussion. And the 2 things for discussion, open discussion, were what challenges do they see that the fathers face in the 21st century, and 2, what was their thoughts about the current state of fatherlessness in America. With this, I was able to sit back and just do more observation of the group to see how the group was interacting with each other and whether it was becoming cohesive or not. There was good discussion that flowed one to another. Even at one point, a member asked if they could ask another group member a direct question. Discussion continued and it allowed me to use active listening skills. It allowed me to use linking skills where I was able to interject and say, I see 2 of you guys are talking about something similar here. Also allowed me to use clarifying skills because sometimes there was information that was being brought up in the open discussion that I didn't really understand, and I was concerned that other members wouldn't understand as well. But at one point in this open discussion format, the conversation started to turn a little bit into a gripe session where, and talking about divorce and talking about child support, they start talking a lot about the courts and how they felt like the court systems gave men a hard time. I recognized it pretty fast, but I was a little bit hesitant in bringing it off of that gripe session by about 3 minutes or so. I was able to get the conversation back on track to what the intended purpose was by using the cutoff method and telling the member, let me stop you right there and try to get the discussion back on track here. So I used a verbal sentence completion to change, where the conversation was at the time. And I said, so with the many challenges that we've been talking about for the last few minutes, what motivates you then, with all the challenges that men face, what motivates you to be a better father today? So it was nice because this quick exercise was a calming transition back into the deeper work. Once we got that transition and that verbal sentence completion done, I had them bring out their description cards again, ask for a volunteer, and we got one right away where someone volunteered to go through the describe card and talk about 2 or 3 words for their father, 2 or 3 words of what they feel like they are as a father, and 2 or 3 words about what they think a good father was. This went very smoothly at about that 7:25, 7:40 time, which set us right up for our close time at 7:45. The closing time, we used it to reflect about, ask members if they had learned anything, what their feelings, their experience were being in the group, and also if they had any plans of taking any information they had learned and applying it and moving forward. Again, when I asked for a volunteer, someone immediately stepped up, which I think opened it up and made it easier for other people to flow. I didn't even have to ask anyone. They all went around and just followed the lead and shared about about their time, and they reflected on their time and what they got out of the group. If I would do a self-assessment, I would say I would evaluate my performance as pretty high. Later on, each group member eventually texted me and said they enjoyed their time in the group. They felt that it went very well and that they were able to benefit from that. I felt that at the meeting, the close of the meeting, I was able to lead the content and the process and the managing of the personalities and the flow of the meeting pretty well. As the saying goes, people don't mind being led as long as they are led well. And I felt like I was able to do that. One of my biggest challenges, though, was overcoming my initial nerves and getting everything set up. But once we got that set up, I felt like everything ran pretty smooth. And only one time did I have to step in and cut off a member from talking in the whole 2 hours that we were discussing. Um, I thought that went very well informing the members. I did very well informing the members about what to expect. I also felt I did very well in warming the group up. Also, I felt like I did a good job of using active listening skills, linking, and clarifying information. Something I would have done differently is when I would have been a little bit more proactive and cutting off earlier when the conversation started to go a little bit off the purpose. In concluding, I was amazed at the power of the group process with people that I thought I already knew. At first, I was skeptical, about the group process, coming from a background where most of the work that was done with people were from a one-on-one session. But I could see through the videos and the materials that I've been studying, and also in my own group, how using the group process really does work. Also, one key takeaway I wanted to take from this experience, I got from this experience, was confidence that this is something that I can do and this is something that I want to do. I also want to do more work in developing my skills in this group process and working with a mentor, and also eventually becoming a certified group leader. How will I apply these things? I'll apply these various skills I studied and displayed, in particular in future group meetings when I work with students in school. I do some group, but I didn't really see the overall power of the group, so I'm going to do more work with my students when I get back to school this fall as well. A couple things I need to work on is I need to do more study on the various skills that a leader needs, so I don't over rely on the two things I do: um, the rounds, and over rely on just using different exercises. I don't want to be just stuck in those two places. I want to make sure I have a wide variety of skills developed. Also, I need to do more study and research on using the therapeutic techniques and approaches and figuring out how to use them appropriately and properly in a group setting, especially something that's a little bit more serious than just a topical group discussion. In conclusion, I just want to say that I love the experience. Doing this assignment was like a culmination of fulfillment of all the many things I've done in my life experiences, but the fact that I was able to do this in a professional setting and in an educational framework was very exciting to me.